All right, then we are ready to test the session logic and design. The first step in this one is actually going to be a brain teaser. So in a minute, I'm going to show you a think tank session. It's a session with some questions. It's a brainstorm activity, and it's about projects and project improvement. And the objective of this exercise is to see if you can quality assure this session, which means can you spot any type of problems or issues with the session. If you can, please note them down. Once the exercise is over, there'll be a little break, and then let's go through the potential problems with the activity, and let's see how many of them you have spotted. So, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, and here you see the activity. This is what is behind the Thinkers tab. This is what's behind the Instructions tab. This is what's behind the Documents tab. This is what's behind the Permissions tab. And that's it. All right. Hopefully now you've found some of the issues with the site. Let's review what potential problems there might be with this setup of this activity. Let's look at key issues on this one. Let's go to the question number 1. What projects have you worked on, and what is your key insights from that work? The problem with this question is that it's having multiple questions in one, and will not be a very good answer. We'll get with this one, we'll get different information and text put together. So this one is not good from the perspective of asking multiple questions in one. This one, in order for this to work, it had to be split up at least in 2 different questions. So the insights based on this one is ask simple and easy answerable question that we can manage. Problem number 2 with this activity is the second question. Do you think we need to improve the way we plan and execute projects in our department? This is a closed-end question that is more relevant to be asked as a vote and not open for comment. So this is a poor choice of question. First of all, it's not open, it's closed. And second of all, it would probably have been better to use a vote set up in order to execute this question. Problem number 3 are in the views. Right now, all 3 columns are visible. It's probably not necessary to have the comments column open. So optimally, this should have been closed, as this is just a matter of single responses to a couple of questions. Problem number 4. We have here an input box which is open, but during this activity, normally a session leader would run the participants through these questions. So there's no need for the option for the thinkers to input questions. So this one should optimally have closed out. Next problem, potential issue. You have 2 questions here. Right now, the participants are able to click on each of them and potentially answer each of them. However, when facilitating such a brainstorm activity, normally you want to reduce what the participants needs to do. So a potential issue with this one is that you ask 2 questions at the same time and hope that people can figure out how to click between these 2 and answer both of them. Maybe a better way to set that up would be to lead the participants or the thinkers to answer both questions. That we could have done by closing the view out of the question session and then clicking on this one. So the only thing that a thinker could see were the one in the middle. Then once we've provided enough time to look at this one, we might have a chance to discuss the comments. Then we click on this one and give them another option to input responses to the second question and then discuss that. Next issue with this session is that the navigation bar or the big agenda out here is visible to the participants or thinkers. Normally that is not necessary and not useful. So in an optimal setup, we would probably have closed out the views of the navigation tab. So only the session leader, but not the participants or thinkers, could see the navigation bar. Next issue is the same thing, just for the Documents tab. Documents tab have no documents in it, and there's no intention in the activity to make it possible or useful for the users to upload stuff to share with others. So in this situation, it would probably have been better to close out the view of the Documents tab. Next problem you actually found in the Instructions tab. The instructions here are set up for the leader, but these instructions cannot be seen by the thinkers even though they were intended for the thinkers. So the problem here is that the session leader has input instructions under the wrong tab. These instructions should have gone in under the Thinkers tab, which I'm doing now, adding them here. And the content in the Leader tab should not be for thinkers. So in this case, we probably need to delete them if the session leader knows exactly how to execute this activity, which we expect him or her to do. So this is the right setup for the instructions, except this one. All right. There we go. So this is the right setup for this one. Last but not least, there's also an issue with the settings for the activity. This one has showing of name tags open. This we probably don't need because most activities runs best under anonymity, so we need to turn this one off. You could also have spotted this one if you look up here in the top right corner. Normally it says anonymous. If it doesn't say that, then it's because the name tag has been turned on. So we're going to take this one off, close this one out, and now you see that I'm an anonymous participant. So how many of these problems did you actually spot? If you spotted none of them, you need to start the course over. If you spotted all of them, you are great and a professional facilitator. If you spotted all of them but 2 or 3, then you're doing pretty well. There are a few other small tips and tricks I want to share with you guys at this point in time when it comes to ThinkTank session design. As you've probably seen from the problems with the brain teaser exercise, the question formulation is pretty important to get the right kind of contribution. So make sure that you ask the right questions, which are typically open questions and not double questions. Also make sure that an activity actually produces the desired outcome. This tends to be maybe a little obvious question. However, a number of sessions that we have edited over the years have had that issue that the session itself is actually not producing the needed output from that activity. Third, we'd like you to think as the thinker and make sure that the progress and sequencing of your ThinkTank activity is logic to the thinker. So please remember to review a session from a thinker's perspective. You can also be sure that once you test the session, if you find it a little bit difficult to do or answer, then you can be sure that most of the participants will have issues with it, which means that you need to look at a different way to do it or a better way to do it with clear instructions.